I do not consider myself a byproduct of conception, a clump of tissue, or any of the other names given to a child in the womb. I do not consider any person conceived to be any of these things. These are the words of 19-year-old Gianna Jessen, one of the very few people whose mother tried to abort them and lived. Her 17-year-old mother attempted a saline abortion, but Gianna was born early and alive. She was rushed to the hospital, placed in foster care, and was later adopted. As a result of the abortion, she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, but she thanks God every day for letting her live. It's not very often that a victim of abortion gets to speak out, but when they do, it's obvious what their opinion would be. Because of this, I believe that abortion is wrong. One of the many arguments between pro-life and pro-choice supporters is whether or not a baby is actually a human before it's born. Many argue that a child is simply a genetic blueprint, capable of being a human, but isn't yet. They say that before a child has taken their first breath on their own, it's merely tissue. However, in Luke's Gospel, there is no distinction between John the Baptist in the womb and Jesus right after he was born. He uses the same word, the Greek word for baby, to describe both children. This being said, I believe that conception is not only when life begins, but when it is continued. No part of making a baby has ever been dead, but alive and capable of creating life. Dr. Fritz Baumgardner, a private practice doctor in California, says that there is no more important time in a child's life than conception. But because a woman doesn't know what's happening, and no one can trace it back to the time that it actually did happen, we don't consider it to be as important as it really is. Secondly, an abortion can be extremely dangerous. A pregnant woman is very vulnerable, especially during an abortion. She could go into shock, a coma, or bleed to death. And if a doctor leaves anything behind, it could easily poison her bloodstream. A woman who has an abortion is also very prone to suffer emotionally afterwards. 92% of them admit to feeling lonely and shut down to their own emotions. They develop eating, drinking, and drug disorders, and they suffer from nightmares and attempt suicide. And lastly, these children that are dying are the future of our country. Their future husbands, wives, and friends who are being taken away from those who would love and know them someday. Some of these children would grow up to be doctors, lawyers, and counselors who would be depended upon and help other people. There would be Christians, men and women who would lead the church. But because of abortion, their influences are being lost. Mother Teresa of Calcutta said, "It is a poverty to decide that a child must die so that you may live." No matter the circumstance, no matter the fear of one person or another, abortion is murder, plain and simple. We need to fight for the millions of lives of future Americans. These children are innocent and are made in the image of God.